James, why are you trying to fire Mike Brown? What did he do to you?
Man.
Like you've caused this huge commotion by saying Vivek Ranadive hates Mike Brown. I believe those were the exact words written in the King's Beat. We read it here live on the show. James, man, how did things go so south for Sacramento?
Yeah, you gotta love aggregation. Aggregation is great, isn't it? Yeah, they kind of took that line out of context. Out of 2,000 words, they kind of took that one out of context. So I hope that people go out and read it as opposed to just making irresponsible statements out on the internet, acting like they know something that they don't.
We tried to provide a little context, James, but I'll ask you to make sure I conveyed this properly. The line about ownership being unhappy with not repeating the previous year's success. First of all, that has to be the most obvious statement in history. Like, why would they be?
The most obvious statement in history.
But you followed it up with, and I can't find it exactly in the article, but you followed it up with, this should be simple, but as is usually the case in Sacramento, this shouldn't be a complicated matter, but like everything else in Sacramento, it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're referring to the overarching discussion of what your 2,000 words are about, and it's about the contract extension and the money potentially due to him for Mike Brown.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, everything,
which is what the article is about.
Everything is complicated in Sacramento, and if you don't understand that, it's because you haven't been paying attention. I mean, am I the only one who just noticed that Monty McNair got his extension in February? Like, he was a free agent after the season. Like, we went through this exact same thing with the general manager last year, and it's this weird prove it thing. Yeah, like, look, it's a situation that can be rectified quickly. And like, look, everything I hear, it's not like we're not doomsdaying here. I'm honest, like this is something that's happened in Sacramento before, and you should be able to avoid this exact situation. But hey, who knows if it will be rectified? Who knows if it will work out? Again, some of the things I bring up in the article, like Rudy Gay's "Welcome to Basketball Hell." It's a very clear statement, and he explains it very clearly with Carmelo that he signed an extension here in Sacramento to play for Mike Malone, and then he wasn't here anymore, like a month later. And if you're not looking at this Kings roster and thinking the same exact thing for some of these guys, like Malik Monk has to be looking at that. De'Aaron Fox, who's can get an extension this summer, has to look at that. Domantas Sabonis, who just signed a massive extension last summer because he loved the direction the team is going. They have to be looking at this. So I don't think there's anything in there that's overwhelmingly crazy at all. And, again, I think the one line is taken out of context. If people don't think Vivek is pissed that they didn't make the playoffs, man, he's not happy with anybody. Like, that's the way it goes. Like, he wanted to make the playoffs. He loves the success that they had the year before. He loves the money that rolled in the year before. Like, this is what he thought was the beginning of a process of building up to a championship, and to take a step backwards, which is, again, when you make the playoffs one year and you don't make it the next, unfortunately, that's a step backwards. Then, of course he's not going to be happy, but that doesn't mean he's specifically angry at Mike or Monty. He's not happy with the general situation.
That's not what Basketball on X told me.
No, I know.
Was that first group to kind of aggregate that with Basketball on X? Did they start all this?
Oh yeah. They they put the quote out there, and the quote's fine. Actually, our friend Brett Huff is one who put the quote out first. Thanks, Brett.
Well, the caption is not fine because that's
the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. It's the caption that and again, it's people out there.
Hoopside didn't help either.
Yeah. It's the people out there who don't read the story, that,
which is everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody reads.
Well, no, I mean, it's certainly people. There's one or two in Sacramento I can already tell didn't read the story and have an opinion. So it's what it is.
So I want a little context to just the situation the Kings are in, and I think, and not saying that you're doing this or anybody's doing this, but just it's easy to say, "Oh, this is what happens in Sacramento," right? Like this is the situation, and the fact that it's not done. This is a Sacramento issue or something that they always do. How routine is it for a coach in Mike Brown's situation to have the new contract by the end of the basketball season? Like
Yeah,
in any league. I mean, one that we're talking, Ty Lue has been fighting for a year and a half to get a contract extension that he still doesn't have. I mean, is that, oh, we've seen this before with the Clippers, or like, is it not uncommon for what Monty said? Yeah, okay, we're gonna have negotiations this offseason. Like, is that a common thing?
James froze. Arguably the greatest freeze of all time.
I'm gonna blame the length of your question there, Casey. That's what I want to say.
Oh,
that was
man.
fantastic.
I'll take that one too. I'll take that one.
That
Put
was
that one on my resume.
fantastic.
That's on me.
That was fantastic. Again, the
Yeah.
only person not amused when James freezes is James. I understand.
Yeah, no, this isn't super common that head coaches go into the final year of their contract. You know, like for the most part, coaches either get an extension or like everyone knows what's coming, right? So most coaches, like if there's a 4-year deal, it's usually by the end of the third year that you know whether they're going to be there for a fourth year or not. So this is, I think, a little different because like there was, from what I know, there was like a mutual, like fourth year option on the deal, and like, look, the coaching salaries have skyrocketed, and that's realistically part of like a huge portion of the piece that I wrote is just what coaching salaries have done over the last couple of years. And from what I know, Mike Brown makes less right now than Luke Walton made during his contract here in Sacramento, and that's just not like up to snuff with what NBA coaches are being paid right now. Mike Budenholzer just got a 5-year, $50 million contract to take over the Phoenix Suns, and his career win percentage is a couple of ticks below Mike. He's won an NBA championship. Mike's been to the NBA finals with a team. They both have a whole handful of rings as assistant coaches. And their win percentages, like their win totals, one over 9 years and one over 10 years, like super, super close. So I don't know, like if Mike is your guy moving forward, then I would assume that you're going to make a commitment here. But I think it's got to be a little bit. I mean, the years, the money, everything else has to be right. And it's just this is another situation where there's too much positivity, too much like progress being made to start taking steps back. Now, look, if things don't go well next year, I could see I would understand this situation where it's like 2 years in a row and you're setting like a precedent that you maybe plateaued early and then now you're on the downswing already. But I don't think anyone in Sacramento feels like that's where the Kings are at right now.
So real quick though, I want to get as clear as picture as I can possibly get. And maybe because it's so vague, maybe James, you don't have the answer. The mutual option in the fourth year, does that mean they both have to agree on whatever the outcome is? Like for instance, if
No, it means
if
they both have to agree to exercise the option for yes.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not like they both have to agree on no, both have to agree on yeah. Like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Just making
That's
sure.
that's not a situation you want to walk into in the final year of a contract. Like a mutual option for year 4 is worth absolutely nothing if you're a coach going into his third year. So that means you have no long term stability at all. You're under a 1-year contract, no matter what.
Mhm. And that's what we're trying to avoid by getting an extension done this offseason, is essentially wiping out that.
What
Good.
well, I was gonna say, which is that's what I'm trying to figure out is that's what's going on now is common, right?
That is so
Like that
that's
it's
where I
not
was going.
yeah.
what's happening right now at this exact minute with Sacramento and Mike Brown, it is totally normal.
Oh yeah, totally.
What's not is if we get to December and we're in the exact same situation.
Right.
That's not normal. I don't even think you got to go to December. You can probably go to September or
Yeah.
October. That's not as normal. Right now, May 22nd, yeah, that's
No, I think it's totally normal. I do. And not only that, but I'm not the only one who's written on this exact subject. Like we saw it from Jake Fisher last week or the week before, right at the end of the season. We saw an article from Amick and Slater. Like, look, this is the situation. It's the same as a player going into the final year of his deal with the team. It's why the Kings decided to renegotiate and extend Domantas Sabonis last year, so they didn't go into this summer with this gigantic dark cloud hanging over their head about whether or not they're going to be able to retain Domantas Sabonis or not. So it's a little different with coaches. Yeah.
This is all a byproduct of the Kings losing too damn early. That's what all of this is. The Kings didn't make the playoffs. Their season ended too early, and now we're hyper analyzing when Mike Brown ain't even got a chance to get his first golf game in yet before we started worrying about his contract extension.
Yeah.
We're worried about Malik, and Kenny and Jesse are trying to trade Keegan Murray.
Whoa.
Pissing off Matt George Matt George the day before his birthday. And yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah.
All because the Kings couldn't beat the damn Pelicans.
Yeah.
Not once. Couldn't beat the Pelicans once.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is the off season, but I'm not writing a ton like every day, like burying this team and saying how bad they were and all that stuff. Like most of the time when we're writing these things, it's like to inform you, give you all the information possible. And so like if you want to choose a side on which way to go, which way not, that's one thing. Like if you're a Mike Brown like fan club or if you're not. But either way, like this team has been preaching continuity and like building something for the last couple of years. And you started that. You have continuity. You brought the same roster back for continuity's sake. And we're already getting to that point where you're faced with whether continuity is really what you're going to go with, or if you're going to do the same thing that we've seen in the past, which is like have this thing go a little sideways quickly.
And to dumb this down, when quick, as simple as possible, because no one will clip this, or you guys can tweet this if you want to. Is Mike Brown on the hot seat? Yes or no? Right now, today on May 22nd, 2024, is Mike Brown on the hot seat?
No, not that I've heard. No, I mean, that's not what I've heard at all. But that
very much flies in the face of what Hoops Hype said. But I just wanted to make sure we've talked now for 13 minutes, but sometimes you just have to make things crystal clear. And that was the clearest way we could make it. A host asking a journalist who wrote something about something that was aggregated from his column. Is he in trouble? No, he is not.
I didn't write there anywhere in the piece that he's in trouble.
Nowhere.
No, nowhere in the piece said that I read he's in trouble or he's about to be fired or that Vivek is going to just fire him. But there's certainly a precedent that's set. And I'll just bring this up, and I've brought this story up before. Like DeMarcus Cousins used to like call me over and like, hey man, why do you always write about my technicals? And I told him, hey, I'll make you a deal. You stop getting technicals, I'll stop writing about them. Because every time you get another one, I have to write about the context of this, because it's not like this is your first one or your 10th one. This is like during your career here, like your 60th. And you're also approaching a point where you're going to get suspended for technicals. Like you have to write about the context of what's happened here in Sacramento, because we have seen something similar to this play out before, where you have free agents who have to make decisions. You have a core that is looking and making sure that things aren't going to go sideways here because they're bought into a certain thing. And I think it's very similar to the feel of what happened with Malone. And like, to be honest, I hope that Vivek is grown and totally learned from that situation and is like way past whatever. But that it does feel like a similar situation where you have the buy-in, the people are there, you're asking people to buy into something, and they buy into something, and then all of a sudden you're looking at the final year of a contract. And when there's a final year of a contract, that means that there might not be the buy-in. There probably is going to be there is likely that these guys are going to get a deal done, I would assume, but we don't know that like for sure. And
Well, as
I
long as
have to
Pete
write about it.
D'Alessandro's not here, he'll be fine.
And that's what I was gonna say too, though. Like that's not necessarily fair to Vivek, especially with everything that everybody's ever told him, because they always what's the line? Let the basketball players or basketball people do basketball things. Mike Malone getting fired, from what my understanding is, James, you know this a lot better, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was not Vivek saying, I'm tired of Mike Malone, I want him out of here. It was him listening to Pete D'Alessandro, who was trying to get George Karl in here and said, let's get this guy out the paint so I can get Karl. Wasn't that the next coach?
No, the next coach was Tyrone Corbin, which they
after
did.
the interim. Tyrone was the interim because he was the interim when Malone was gone.
He was
the whole
the
play
interim
was to get Karl, right?
Well, okay, so he was the interim, but they pulled the interim tag after like 2 weeks and gave him the job and gave him a 2-year deal. And then he was fired. So he actually got paid for 2 years as a head coach as well. So, yeah.
Hi, Corbin.
Yeah, I mean, it was like complicated and convoluted, but no, I mean, again, I went at that point and sat in the owner's lounge and had an interview with Vivek about why he let Michael Malone go. And like, if you want to take him at his like face value, he was very clear. He wanted a jazz band leader, not a Sousa marching band leader. He wanted somebody who did free flowing offense, not a defensive minded guy who slowed things down and tried to play the game at a slower pace and just like an ugly style of basketball, basically. And he wanted to see more freedom of movement and everything else on the court. And that's what he said at the time. Now I will tell you, like, it was super complicated. There was bad relationships all over the place between front office members and the head coach. Like, Malone has been clear the whole time that he believes it was Vivek that let him go and no one else. But at the end of the day, like, that was a very, very crazy and complicated situation. And
Well,
I
one
even
thing we know is Michael Malone never lets his emotions get the better of him.
No, yeah. Well, but I also, like, even in the article, I said, like, Vivek, and with the advice of others, like, made the decision to move on. And again, if this was like one giant swing upwards, but like, I think we're going into Vivek's 12th season. We just finished 11.
Wow.
And from what I can tell, this is a seventh head coach. So,
is that bad?
Wow.
Who should have stayed besides Mike Malone?
I don't know.
Well, that doesn't help the argument. Like, it's a series of missteps because it's
I don't know.
It's the Pete D'Alessandro thing. It's Vlade Divac. I'm still unclear why Joe Dumars was here.
Yeah, but I mean, like, Dave Yeager put up 39 wins after you completely gutted his team after year one, and he had 9 first and second year players, rookies, and 1 year of experienced players in his second season, and in year 3 he had the team, winning 39 games. I mean, you could make the argument that he could have been there.
Let's not act like that's
success. I don't disagree. No, but you're right. Both of you are right. I don't disagree with either of that. And I know Dave has had some extenuating circumstances since his time in Sacramento wrapped up, but it's not like he was fired and got another job immediately. And again, extenuating circumstances. He hasn't had another job. So we could argue.
No, he hasn't had another head coaching job. He's been a lead assistant on 2, I mean, like, top of the Eastern Conference playoff teams. Both of them.
The Cavs.
Yeah.
You want Luke back? Well, and I don't mean that. Like, I know you like Luke Walton, but you want Luke back as the head coach?
No, I'm not saying that. I didn't bring up who should come back and who shouldn't come back at all.
Look at Damian Barr aggregating James Ham live.
There you go. You're live aggregating me.
Sacramento.
Yeah.
Send tweet.
Yeah. Nice.
Can't wait for his side to get that one.
Yeah, like, look, I don't like. I don't know who you should have. Like, if there was a coach over the last, I don't think there's a coach that I would take over Mike at all. Um, that over Mike Brown. I mean, again, there's something to the fact that the Kings sat here for 16 years not making the playoffs. The guy shows up and they make the playoffs in the first year. They showed an 18 game improvement. Now, did the roster
Monty deserves
get
some
better?
credit for that. Yeah.
No, the roster got better for sure. Like that's true. But how many other times did this team build a roster that looked like it should be able to make the playoffs and then didn't? Like it's more than once. Even go back to the what we're talking about here, the 2014-15 team. That team in the next year, both were solid teams that probably could have had a shot at making the postseason. The year after, the year that Yeager took the team over, that team they added veterans to try to get over the hump. What did they add? Like Matt Barnes and I don't know, like Aaron Aflalo. What was that year? Like they added.
It was the first year ago to one center, right? And I think Matt Barnes was like went to like the second game where he played well and they beat the Timberwolves or something like that.
Yeah, I think that year they brought Omri Caspi back. I think isn't that the year Ty Lawson came in? Maybe I'm wrong,
And
but
that
you
sounds
had,
yeah.
it was a very veteran team. I remember that when you started that season, you had Rudy Gay, Omri Caspi, and Matt Barnes at the small forward. By the end of the season, you had no small forward that was over like 6'5". Like that's just the way the season went between injuries and trades and guys getting waived.
No.
Matt Barnes seems like he played basketball an eternity ago.
No.
It feels
Yeah.
like it was forever ago that Matt Barnes played basketball.
Man.
Matt Barnes, the podcaster? All the smoke, that Matt Barnes? Now he's going to be an author?
Yeah, I seen that.
Oh, he's got his reality show too.
Oh, does he?
I ain't seen his rap.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
No, he's got his own reality show starting on one of the channels.
Salute
to Matt Barnes, and he is involved in cannabis, ain't he?
Yeah, Matt Barnes is definitely involved in cannabis.
Involved in cannabis.
He's definitely involved in cannabis. That is 100% accurate.
Wow.
It would sound a little different if I said he was selling cannabis. I didn't want.
He's selling weed. No, Matt Barnes.
I didn't want it to sound a certain
Matt
way.
Barnes has his own weed. That's what it is. Like he has his own weed.
I don't want to be like, Matt Barnes selling weed, ain't he? I was like, whoa,
legal.
He's involved in just the way you said that. He's involved in cannabis, right? Like, oh, okay.
Sure. Yes. Like, where have you been?
I don't know. Yes, I guess.
All over the place.
Man. It just feels like your column being aggregated the way it was, like, only happens in Sacramento. Aggregation happens all over the internet, but because it's Sacramento, they can read your words a certain way and go, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Let's grab it and put it on social media.
Yeah.
Look, including the people here, not like media, but like just fans here will read what's said and, oh no, they're Kangsing again.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think the people. You're right. I don't think the people who read James's column feels that
people
way.
who read the tweet.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And the tweet came with framing, though. It literally said Kings ownership unhappy with Mike Brown. Like, wait a minute, it literally doesn't say that in the column.
Didn't say that at all. They're unhappy with losing and not being in the playoffs.
James sees the tweet like, wait a minute, that's my name. What?
Yeah, I think it was on the air when that happened.
We laughed at first, James. Just we laughed at first and got some jokes off, and then we realized this thing was spiraling out of control a little bit. So we tried to have your back.
Yeah, I don't like. There's no way when it starts to aggregate like that. What do you do? Like whoever tweeted that out, I don't even know those guys. They just like a minute ago started following me on Twitter.
It's not a very big account.
They made it a pinned tweet.
Oh yeah, nice. Well, and the problem is they did that because it went viral, and it's the same with who's the other one that always does this, that aggregates stuff that's wild.
Hoop Central is the one. Dunk Central.
Yeah, they're
Hoop
the ones
Central.
who get your famous quotes from 95.7 The Game.
Oh, those
Yeah, because I even with that, I reached out to those guys. I'm like, you guys fully got that quote wrong. Like, you need to listen to the clip, and that's not what I said at all. And nothing, no response.
Oh yeah, they're not going to respond.
Oh no, they're not going to respond. Yeah.
So I had to go take a look at something. Lakers guard, Minnesota Timberwolves player D'Angelo Russell gives his predictions. 4 tweets, 4 retweets, 20 likes. Gigi Jackson, something. 2 retweets, 19 likes. Something about Paul George in the Philadelphia 76ers uniform. 5 retweets, 22 likes. Something about Ant-Man. 6 retweets, 26 likes. James Ham, 403 retweets.
He moves the needle, man.
167 likes. Boy. My
yeah.
goodness.
Again, there's nothing you can do about aggregation, and more than that, just people who are making uneducated stabs at the dark on it. Read the article if you want to know what I actually said. That's all I can say, or you can listen to us here.
Oh boy. You know, my favorite thing to do with this stuff is look at the quote tweets. Playoff SJ says their big offseason move was re-signing the corpse of Harrison Barnes.
Come on, man.
And they blaming the coach. These
that.
GMs getting away with so much.
Yeah.
What else do we got here? Let's go to break. We'll come back. I feel like we've kind of put this to bed. They've got Mike Brown in a Lakers uniform. Oh boy.
Warriors fans jumped in too. They would love to have Mike Brown back. I saw a few of those.
I don't know why.
Yeah. A lot of people have Mike Brown's back though in these quote tweets. And then there's me and Kenny getting jokes off. Sorry about that. We'll come back. We'll talk nonsense with James Ham when D'Lo and Casey return here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
We can talk about this more tomorrow, maybe. And a hell of a pivot if this goes through. ESPN and TNT Sports have reached a 5-year agreement for TNT Sports to sub-license select college football playoff games from ESPN. Beginning with the upcoming college football season, TNT will present 2 first-round college football games during the 2024 and 2025 seasons. Gonna do big numbers too.
You see that the Mavericks have a negative double-digit point differential against the Timberwolves, Celtics, and Pacers?
No.
It's all minus 13 against the Pacers, minus 16 against the Celtics, and minus 19 against the Timberwolves this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's a good
Corgi's
idea.
loose.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I love that Melo and Eli are this new super pitchman team. 2 of James's favorites.
I know who Melo is. I don't know who the other guy is.
Eli Manning.
Oh. Yeah.
They're the Corona pitchman.
Yeah, he's the unlikely movie star guy out of this, isn't he? The
Eli?
unlikely.
Yeah, the Manning cast has done wonders for him, I think. It's Eli's got a personality.
Yep. He's
Everyone
funny.
thought Peyton was the funny one.
Eli Manning, first ballot Hall of Famer?
You keep bringing that up, and the answer is always the same.
Yes.
Yes, sir, he is.
What do you think, Ham?
You're not wrong.
I mean,
Shouldn't be that way, but you're not wrong.
Don't disrespect the man.
I don't know. Is he first ballot?
Yeah, they like Eli. They only don't make people they don't like non-first ballots.
I guess. I'm trying to. I mean, did they ever let Jim Plunkett in the Hall? And didn't he win Super Bowls? And I know his teams weren't great, but
My grandma went to high school with Jim Plunkett.
Where's he from?
San Jose,
San
I
Jose?
think. Yeah, he went to James Lick.
and then went to
Jim
Stanford.
Plunkett
No, I don't think he
is
ever.
not a Hall of Famer.
Mm-mm.
2 Super Bowls, Super Bowl MVP, Comeback Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Heisman Trophy winner. Let's check Eli here real quick. Eli Manning, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 4 Pro Bowls.
How did he make 4 Pro Bowls? Well, that's not that hard. He only made the playoffs 1 year other than the Super Bowl years.
But how many
Mhm.
Super Bowl years does he have?
He has 2.
2.
And he made 1 the year they lost because they went on the boat.
Oh, you're talking Eli.
Yeah.
That's right. The boat.
I think that's his only
The
other
boat,
playoff
yeah.
year. And how long he played? Like 12 seasons?
Eli ain't going the boat. 2000. Yeah, that checks out. 2025. No, he played closer to like 14 or 15.
That's awful. That is
Yeah.
awful. You made the playoffs 3 years.
Well, they're
14
all
years.
iconic. He beat the Patriots twice and then the boat picture. They just recovered from the boat picture the day before last.
That is awful. He's definitely gonna be a first ballot though. That's for sure.
57,000 yards.
John, I went to school in Modesto. My parents went to school in San Jose, though. My dad went to Mount Pleasant. My mom went to Silver Creek.
Postseason. Eli went to the playoffs. Eli went to the playoffs. Well, yeah, Eli went to the playoffs 6 times.
6 times, or maybe it's the wins.
2005. Yeah, well,
Maybe
that's
he
it.
didn't
That's
get
it.
a playoff win outside.
One, that's
of
it.
those 2.
One and done. Super Bowl. One and done. Super Bowl. One and done. And there's years of missed playoffs between all of those. Well, no, he went 2005, 6, 7, and 8. Then he missed it in 9, 10, won another Super Bowl, then missed it in 12, 13, 14, 15, and then went in 16. Yeah, that man's going to the Hall. Not only is he going to the Hall, he'll probably be the headliner of his class.
Yeah. He's gonna
Eli? Yeah.
the last speech.
Oh, man. All right, coming back, James. I better let this whole song play with Drake and all. Y'all won't believe this.
Is this a Drake song?
Yeah. He's featured on the remix, and for weeks we've been on KSFM alternating between the regular version and the remix version. So the version with Drake and the version without Drake. This young lady called yesterday, and when I say she was pissed,
She was cross as 2 sticks.
she was angry that Complex had mixed out of the song before Drake's verse hit, and she accused us of siding with Kendrick Lamar in the Kendrick Lamar-Drake beef, and then said, we're just playing music for ourselves and not the audience.
I love that you guys are getting like listener calls now, like that.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's in depth.
She was
Yeah.
cross as 2 sticks.
Let us have it. She was not pleased. Not pleased at all. James Ham back here with us. So now that James has confirmed Mike Brown is in fact not on the hot seat. By the way, did anyone catch the any piece of the sports Emmys yesterday?
No.
Did we win?
We did not win. I don't believe we were
rigged.
nominated for anything. But there was an interesting moment where the best in-game analyst was handed his trophy, and it was poor Greg Olsen.
Oh man.
Who, if you read the reports,
Oh man.
and Greg Olsen is freaking fantastic.
Yes.
But if you read the reports, the man's got to take a $7 million pay cut now that Brady is on board.
Fair.
And they just determined he is the very best at his job that he's being replaced in right now by a guy who has never, ever, ever done it.
That is not fair.
And he did it smiling, and like he couldn't have been like a better acceptant, of the award. I just felt bad for him. I didn't really feel bad for him at first. It was like, hey, it's Tom Brady. Then I saw he has to take a pay cut because he's on the second team versus the first team. Then I felt bad for him.
That's not
because I don't care how much money Greg Olsen made in his career. Losing $7 million a year when you're the best at your job is tough.
It ain't fair.
That's not like getting a $50,000 fine when you make, $32 million a year.
Not the same.
Yeah. That's a little, that's a haircut.
Not the same. Again, leading the witness. What did you think about last night's game?
I thought it was fun. I thought it was crazy frenetic pace. I thought that the Boston Celtics did the exact same thing that the New York Knicks did, which was a huge mistake, and that is try to run with the track team. And I didn't understand what they're doing. I don't know that you can always slow it down and drag it out with them, but you have to at least try. And to play at the Pacers' pace is that's just a bad idea. It's a recipe for disaster. It's how you get run into the ground, but it's also it's how you lose. Like that team running and gunning is so much better than that team in the half court. And if you play to their style, not number one, your offense better be super, super efficient to keep up. But you also have to figure out a way to play defense when it's that frenetic and that all over the place. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty incredible to watch. I thought the Jaylen Brown 3 was huge. The turnovers ended up being a huge story down the stretch. Really, really a moment where a team went from on the cusp of shocking to everybody and really making this a series to, okay, how do you make adjustments moving forward and how do you not have that happen again if you're Boston?
Did you does it make you feel any different about the series? Like what Indiana could do, or how they can compete in this series? Can they win the series? Do you feel any different?
No, I don't think so. They played about as well as you can play, and barely came up short. And realistically, they shouldn't have come up short. I think just again, experience and everything else down the stretch is what cost them. Yeah, I still think it's Boston. I think Kyle thought it was Boston 5. I said Boston in 6. But that was today. We didn't do predictions last week. So kind of watching this, I certainly think if they would have won last night, if the Pacers would have won, it would have been I would have put it as still Boston in 6. And yeah, it should be at least entertaining. That's what you're hoping, right? You're hoping it's not just a steamroll. And I think the good thing for the Pacers is they're taking leaps and bounds, and it's not just one guy who's showing that he's ready for this. As much as Tyrese Halliburton has been really good, I think they've got really, really nice contributions out of a bunch of players there where, they're learning what it's like to play at this level and this deep into the playoffs and how the intensity is so crazy and how you literally are playing the best team in basketball for 7 straight games. And that's not easy in itself. But I think guys, like Aaron Nesmith, he's taken huge steps forward. I mean, he's looked phenomenal in many of the games during the playoff run. And that's what you're hoping for growing from this.
You think you mentioned the inexperience. You think that's what got them in really the final, we'll say 6 minutes of the game, the final minute of regulation into really it was 5.5 minutes, the final half minute of regulation into overtime, where it just felt like like Tyrese fell out of bounds. Like that's just so bizarre. Like so many weird things happened to that group that they had played so well for 47 and a half minutes, and then it just all kind of fell apart.
Even the Siakam play where I think he got fouled by Jaylen Brown with like a hand in the back on the inbounds play. But watching Siakam, if Siakam would have just let the ball go, it's possible that they would have had to challenge that and lost a timeout. And how does that play out in the last couple of minutes, or in the last minute? But to have him jump out of bounds and grab it, like all of it just seemed like a little bit of a overwhelming meltdown from the Pacers. And again, that's to be expected. That's why we talk about experience. It's why we talk about like who's been there and who hasn't. And Boston, they've had these same exact mistakes themselves for a couple of years. And so this for me, it's a learning experience for everybody involved, but I would be worried if I was the Pacers that you're going to have the Celtics like really watch the film and realize that they can't play at that pace. And then if they slow them down, it could really change the whole complexity of this game, because you can't rely on like Halliburton shooting 38-foot threes and hitting them with nothing but net.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns about Boston after seeing them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to be concerned that they were able to play Al Horford basically off the court, but then Boston couldn't take him off the court because they didn't really have a lot of options. Although, is it Luke Cornett that they have there? I thought he played well. Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a concern. I also think it's kind of awkward too that they're hoping to get Porzingis back by Game 4. But what does that look like? It's not like in the playoffs you have like 2 or 3 days worth of practice to get ready and get a guy acclimated back and figure out if he's going to be able to help you. So you're going to have to make those adjustments on the fly, and that's why I think number 1, like beating Indiana early is a huge, huge deal for Boston, because they need the extra practice time leading up to the finals to get Porzingis ready and right for the finals, if that's how this thing plays out. And I don't know that him playing against a couple of games against Indiana is going to be a good thing, because that's going to take a lot of adjustment. He's been gone for a long time.
James, we've talked a lot. We did today, but we really have talked a lot this week about, the Celtics are a bit in a different category, but they actually did the same thing. But you look at Indiana obviously tied to Sacramento because of the Domas and Tyrese trade. And you look at where, the Sacramento Kings were last year versus the Indiana Pacers. And now you look at them this year and you realize, well, they got about a year and a half into this and realizes they needed to do a little bit more, and were able to pull that Siakam deal off at the midpoint of the season. You head over to the Western Conference, which begins tonight. Everything centers on, the Rudy Gobert trade and all of the hate and venom that the Timberwolves got and Rudy Gobert got for that deal. But then you look at the Mike Conley move and some of the other things that they did to kind of work around that deal and how much better they got. Same thing with Dallas, Kyrie Irving, Dallas, or Luka and Kyrie. How is that going to work together? They went and got Grant Williams, moved off of that real quick, turned that into PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. All of these teams that are still in the playoffs made major changes, or made major trades. And we always give trade grades and we look at them in a nutshell. All 3 of these teams, in 4, I guess, if you want to include Boston, but again, I think they're different. All 3 of these teams did a fantastic job of making these big moves and then making moves to go along with it. Like they completely bought into the plan. For the Kings, theirs kind of happened really quick. They had the Domas deal, but then they went and got Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, and that all happened really quick. It feels like the Kings are entering a part of their story where, hey, it's time to add to that Domas deal a little bit and add some of that extra seasoning that some of these other teams that are playing in the conference finals did with their big trades, including the team that you traded with.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, again, you got to have a dance partner to make a trade in the NBA. So, like, we don't know what's going to come available. Well,
I know one thing: stop calling Toronto.
Yeah,
that hasn't worked out.
Well, I mean,
right.
it's not just who becomes available, because we can talk all we want about like when a player becomes available and everyone jumps right on it. Oh, how would he fit with the Kings? Could the Kings get him here? The problem is you're dealing with, one other team, and they're dealing with 28 other teams besides you, if you're even in the conversation. And so it takes a lot to get a deal done. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, like where the Kings have to make a couple of substantive moves, and it doesn't have to be like trade everybody. I'm not saying that, but you definitely need different players in different positions. You need different looks on the court. It just, at least in my opinion, like when I'm watching the team, like they're good, but some of these other teams just have these other elements that they don't have. And again, it's not easy. We can talk all we want about how cool it would be to see the Monty McNair go out and trade for a guy like Brandon Ingram, but we don't know the cost associated with that. You don't know if Brandon Ingram would stick around. You don't know if the Pelicans have any interest in what you have to offer. You don't know if you could find a third team that would get involved, or a fourth team that would get involved to help sort of balance the trade out. So, and the other thing I would also like, just everyone needs to remember back when the Kings were building their great playoff teams from 1998 to 2006. Like, it started with one group, and then by year 3, it was way different and super refined. Again, you have the Mike Bibby trade, you have the Doug Christie trade, like all of these pieces brought in to surround a core that was already there of Peja, who was, again, a rookie in the 98 season, but Vlade and Weber, and you kept tinkering with pieces. Again, Scott Pollard was there for a while, and from the early part until the end. Like Bobby Jackson wasn't on that first or second team; he was on like the third or fourth team. So, like, these things naturally should evolve. Like, the running back mentality is pretty rare, unless you have a team that fully like goes deep, deep, deep into the playoffs, and then you're trying to keep everybody that you can, trying to see if you can make it work one more time. And so, like, I would hope that the Kings are looking at other ways to improve this roster. And again, it doesn't have to be like way more talent, as much as it has to be different talent, guys who fill different needs for your team in a way that, again, we can talk about PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and uh, Derek Jones Jr. Like, all of those guys bring something different that they just, for whatever reason, the guys that were there before didn't mesh. Now these guys do, and that's a good thing for the Dallas Mavericks. Now they're in the Western Conference Finals.
If you had to guess, just reading the tea leaves, conversations that you may have had, where do you think the Kings as an organization land in the thought process? Are they thinking like you just talked about, like, oh man, we get a PJ Washington, that'll be cool? Or do they think, no, we probably need to get
Pascal Siakam?
Yeah, we need one of them. Where do you just a guess, where do you think their mindset is?
Yeah, it's tough. I think, you probably have like 8 guys over there, and of the 8 guys, I think there's probably like a consensus among like 2 groups of 3, and then 2 outliers that want something totally different. So probably 3 different ideas, 4 different ideas of how you could move forward. And that's healthy. That's the way that like a good front office functions, where everybody has kind of an idea, and can say their piece, and then it's up to the decision makers to go and try to make that happen. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I would like to tell you that they're just gonna like go crazy and make all of these moves and make perfect sense, and this team is gonna just elevate itself and go. But a lot of times it's harder to do that than you think, and it's, all of it's a gamble, and we'll have to see how they handle the offseason.
You think they feel pressure?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't think anyone is enjoying the fact that the season ended so early. Like, the players certainly weren't happy about it. The coaching staff wasn't happy about it. The front office isn't happy about it. Ownership's not happy about it. I mean, that's clear. That doesn't mean they're unhappy with each other. They're unhappy about the situation, and unhappy about the fact that they didn't bust through, and that they're not, making it to the second round and sort of growing into who the team they hope to be, like a title contending team. So yeah, I think that there's plenty of frustration to go around over there.
Kings players unhappy.
There it is.
James Ham. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
tweeted it.
Everybody unhappy, says James.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, does anyone like losing?
I don't believe so.
No. I mean, I don't play sports anymore all that much, and when I do, I hate losing. And it doesn't matter what it is. So, like, look, everyone should walk into the off season with a chip on their shoulder. That's
Dave, I was just gonna ask you real quick, just kind of off subject but on subject. Like how are these days for you? Like, are you? I'm sure it's annoying. You know what I mean, to see a story that you wrote get aggregated like that. But you've dealt with a lot of. Is it something that you kind of take in stride now, or is it still just as annoying as the first time it happened?
Oh no, it's always annoying. I would say, like, I don't like get a rush off of being aggregated by some like whoever, and I would just think that, like, the things that bug me are the people that who should read the story and should listen, and and then don't, and then make like outlandish statements on the internet. Like,
Damn,
those are
Sandy
the
Nunez.
yeah, those are the ones where they just stick out to you. Like, hey, like, you're really making yourself into, like, not a friend at all, but also someone that, like, at a certain point, like, you're gonna have words with, because it's like, hey man, don't take me out of context. Don't make something up. Don't do a straw man argument on me. And realistically, don't lie and act like I said something I didn't. Those are the ones where you get a little, like, under your skin. But outside of that, like, it is what it is, part of the job. When you do have something that you break news and it goes wild and it goes viral, that's really cool. Um, but, like, in this situation, like, again, the story's been written a couple of times. I just wrote a more comprehensive layout of the piece with a slightly different spin based around what's happened in the past, and how that could play into the decision that should be made now, in comparison, using the comparisons of other coaches around this range. Like, there's nothing controversial in there. There's a couple of small tidbits of information that people may or may not have known, but overall, like, there's nothing controversial in there. And the only reason it looks that way is because someone decided to put a weird caption on the internet.
I made a joke about his partner at the Kings beat, and he didn't even sell it. Now I'm frantically searching Twitter accounts because I'm going to find out who James is talking about. Someone was popping off at the mouth, and we're going to war. That's
Yeah.
what's happening. That's what.
Yeah.
Oh no, James, I go to war quick. Like, let's just be honest. Like, I
don't know. We'll see.
I got to do better.
Yeah, like, look, like, there's nothing like trying to be controversial here and trying to stir the pot. That's not at all what I'm doing. All I did was lay out the facts of the case. I mean, it's just sitting there. So it is what it is.
Who you got tonight, Hammer?
Mm,
Yeah, who you got in the series? Series hasn't even started yet. Who you got in the series?
man, we didn't make predictions on this series either. I don't know. The way Minnesota's playing, I have a tough time betting against them at this point. Just because they play with so much force, but then all it takes is Kyrie and Luca to get hot, and if both of those guys get hot in the same game, I don't think that there's a team that can match them. That's a pair that can put up 75 or 80 in a game. So
Yeah, I got Minnesota in I'll say Minnesota in 7.
I feel like I don't. I said all along. Dallas is I don't know what I'm seeing with them. Like, I feel like I can point to like 3. I've pointed to what I think the Pacers will be next year. I can't tell what Dallas is this year. But I do wonder, I do feel like they're going against one of, if not the best, the second best team in basketball right now in the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm gonna lean on Minnesota more than I'm gonna discredit Dallas, because I just have to, as our man TC would say, I just got to be real with myself. I don't understand Dallas. I know they're really good defensively. I know Kyrie hasn't even had like a singular offensive explosion yet, but I still feel like he's been impactful. I feel like Luka's playing some of the best ball of his career without putting up the best numbers of his career. So I'm just going to sit my little happy ass down and watch the series and be a very happy basketball fan. That's the best I can do.
I understand that.
Is our show over? It is? Okay. I wasn't sure. We have to go. James, stop it. Stop causing trouble on the internet. And just cause trouble on your radio show that begins tomorrow at 10 a.m. We appreciate you.